Welcome, Michelle. Welcome, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let me get my notes up here. So, so let's just get right into this. Let's just have the two of you maybe introduce yourselves and your companies, and just talk a little bit from each of your perspectives about why this collaboration between Eluvio and Vubiquity, why it makes sense right now, why this is the moment for it, and what it's going to bring to the industry.
Well, I guess I'll start. Nate was real generous with that. So Eluvio has created the Content Fabric Protocol and Network, and most of you know that it enables over-the-top streaming, both live and on demand, with built-in monetization and rights in a new decentralized method. It's hyper-efficient, also allows for the rights to be in line with the content, and it's data-driven, so one object, right, can be reused for multiple variants, multiple personalizations without creating file copies. And so all of that said, right, Nate and Vubiquity were very generous to follow us and then came to us a few months ago to formalize a collaboration together, and we've been fortunate in the market to start working together and have several opportunities that are really interesting around this, and some of those coming to fruition now. And we would like to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing together. I think Vubiquity is a real specialist in the supply chain and can definitely speak for itself in terms of what their goals are. I think underpinning that from the Eluvio side is the opportunity to harness their supply chain excellence with a zero-copy title library for Hollywood that allows for large-scale libraries to be hosted once and then to be served in multiple applications and multiple front-end services for streaming to consumers. And I'll let Nate talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks for having us up on the stage. It's good to see everyone. We at Vubiquity have been around since 1988, and some of you may be familiar with our kind of mantra. We started and kind of founded pay-per-view VOD and licensing as our background. And so that presents us with a lot of unique opportunities in the industry where you have foresight of not just representing large-scale studios and independents within the space, but on a global scale. And so for us, as we're looking at next-gen formats and new ways to deliver content, and everyone's trying to get more monetization, new business models, supporting those things on the fly on a global scale, we were really looking for a technology partner that was changing the environment. And so we had stayed close to Michelle and her team for the last couple of years, and we were really looking for the right kind of collaboration and opportunity with customers. And now with so many new devices and immersive formats and things like that, we really see an opportunity to take and leverage what she has built with the team and expanding on that into new kind of markets and global launches on day and date. And it's tough right now, right? Everyone's trying to cut costs. Everyone feels the pressure. You don't have to subscribe to producer Patrick or be online with Variety. You see it everywhere across the space. And so being able to present some of these new single source master opportunities and leverage kind of the core Vubiquity IP and the underpinning of what is metadata management, rights management, being able to present those in new opportunities on a global scale, it really ties perfectly with Michelle and her team over there, and being able to be a managed service who kind of understand and develop our own IP, and then to push that off and use her as a technology partner and being able to deliver all the way down to the consumer device with a lot of security and stuff, which I think we'll dive into more.
Okay, great. Yeah, and so just going a little deeper into this collaboration and what it's all about, what would you say is new about this approach compared to how content distribution and monetization have worked traditionally?
Oh, I can take that. So think about a 10,000 title library, right? You have all the main feature films in the multiple formats, both 2D and new 3D and immersive formats. In a traditional supply chain, what happens with those titles is first they have to be hosted somewhere as masters. From those masters, all of the transcoded variants are created. Those variants include the localization. They include the multiple device formats, which can include multiple DRM And then along with that, with the emergence of 3D content, the 3D variants, which might include, 2i sort of presentations along with 3D or 3D and also the 2D side, and then add into that variations like HDR, which can come in HDR, HDR10+, Dolby Vision, and then also variants in audio. All of that in a traditional supply chain has to be not only hosted and prepared, but then also distributed for caching, if you will, to the consumer. And so, of course, the cost of that multiplies the workload, if you will, the complexity multiplies across all of those variations. In the model that we are applying together using the content fabric technology and then Vubiquity's excellence in the head end of the supply chain, we're able to host that 10,000 title library one time, with objects that are componentized, that's the way the fabric works, and to have all of those variants created through just in time, on demand, through the fabric protocol, including each of those dimensions, all the DRM, all the packaging, all the localization, and finally, all of the rights. And this is a really important component here, the rights management, because today's streaming world really turns on entitlement, being subscription or transactional VOD or EST. And in a traditional world, that entitlement layers on to create one more set of variations and also has to be added, typically bespoke, on top of the rest of the video supply chain. And the way we're doing it together, the entitlement and rights are data in those content objects, which are enforced dynamically when the streaming request is made. So you've taken all of those dimensions and made them have a cost of one rather than in. Excuse me. Been talking a lot recently.
You're emotional about it.
Yeah, and excited about it, right? So to kind of like finish this off, right? If you imagine now you have that one title library able to produce all of its outputs and able to then layer on dynamically the windowing, that sets up a new efficiency, a new cost envelope, and a new immediate time to market, because there's no longer this whole chain of having to republish and redistribute and change prices and change offerings. It's all dynamic and served off of that one source. That's what we're doing together.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as, rights equaling revenue. It's that close. It's tying those things together and much more, because anything that can present speed to market and be able to get launches out there that much faster is an enablement, because time is money. And so that's really what this partnership equals. And by us managing a global library and having global rights and being able to orchestrate those things with Michelle and being able to tie those entitlements and the security that's behind that, and having those transactions and things within the ledger of the blockchain, it's incredibly powerful for the data sets and things that are coming back. And it really pushes the envelope of what we'll be able to deliver together back to our customer base jointly.
Yeah, well, I think, speeding time to market is critical. I just think that that's something that is universal, really affects everyone. And, I think as many people in this room can attest, this industry has relied for a long time on sort of piecemeal systems, cobbled together. And can you just talk a little bit about the collaboration that you're bringing forward, how that simplifies things and how that kind of helps to move away from that piecemeal approach?
You want to take it first?
I like ladies first, but
Okay.
but I can. What we're doing and kind of where Vubiquity has traditionally found success actually is simplifying those systems. We're an eat-your-own dog food shop. The IP we develop is really around kind of the perspective of, there's nobody who has multi-tenancy on global rights. There's nobody who has this kind of viewpoint of licensing and that methodology. And so we've kind of had to develop tool sets because there's not an enterprise-grade element. And then beyond that IP, how do we manage it and use it for ourselves and then offer it as a SaaS offering out to the marketplace? And so that's given us a really unique perspective in the industry to say, how do we make these supply chains better? How do they become less complicated? How do we effectually get that time to market? Because the models are changing, the viewership models, the business models are changing, where enabling micro systems. We're doing fast on demand. We're scaling out in different places. These type of things enable us to control those environments and streamline that workflow. And then once we have that data presented, we can hand off a very streamlined opportunity between Michelle and I to make a seamless integration between those two things. And essentially what we want to enable for our customers is for them to have additional monetization opportunities. And so how do we do that? If we take the complexity out of those workflows and streamline together, that can enable them to do deeper library content cleanups and look at library catalog. And maybe we haven't touched this show since the 1950s, but there's opportunity to clean it up and get into a ready state to then monetize it, because it could sell really well in Romania. It might not sell in this part, but having that expertise and the rights of where things will sell, having the data coming back from those regions to present that opportunity is really unique. And so that's where we're very excited about having customers be able to focus on the things that will bring them more money and us speeding them to market through the opportunity.
Totally. And just to add on the underpinning side of that, the Fabric provides the technology to do it, because it makes this all so much simpler. You consolidate each of those separate phases of the supply chain into the network, into one protocol. I know it sounds grandiose, but that's exactly how it works. It also means that for Vubiquity and the customers, you can take what is that investment, as Nate said, into VOD and repurpose it into linear channels, for example. Again, without republishing, without retranscoding, without doing new security, et cetera. And then on the sort of final end of this is actually doing the sales. If you think about the way Hollywood and also premium streaming has worked, prices have been a much more fixed sort of thing. Being able to negotiate new offerings in international territories is something that's typically taken months. With this kind of a model, all of the prices are dynamic data. The entitlements and offerings can be added as data to the objects, and they're available everywhere when you add them. And it opens up the possibility that you can experiment more with new kinds of offerings. Finally, one thing we haven't talked very much about yet is the role of data in line with the content. And most people know, if you've followed us around NAB and IBC, that we have a deep AI stack that is frame accurate, inline the Fabric, and that runs in not only with the video, but also allows for driving personalized operations. And so if you start to think about genre-specific channels, for example, or personalized offerings that get at, let's say, new environments of interactivity, the things we've been talking about today, you don't have to layer that on. It's built in.
Yeah, and so just a few other things I'd like to get into here. So as I understand it, some of the key differentiators that are provided in your approach are unlimited reuse of libraries with entitlements, localization, other premium features like that. So can you talk a little bit about the implications that might have for the supply chain for studios?
Well, I'll start there. I think at the very top line is massive cost reduction. The whole industry's been held hostage by a certain way of doing things for a long time. And to cut through the chase, I think that the reason this is happening now for us with Vubiquity is because we've gotten there. Our platform's now mature enough, good enough, and big enough that it just does it. And that frees the industry for the first time to think about doing this in a different way. With that, I think the second big thing, Steve, you said, is the last question, the simplification, along with the cost and the burden of having to have the microservices workflow of the past and the cloud egress and the redistribution through all the CDNs. The other thing this takes away is that complexity burden, that it's just so incredibly hard to get all of this video made and you need all these people and da-da-da-da-da. This dramatically simplifies what has to be done in order to get to end state, in order to get to revenue. And hopefully that frees up the teams for better jobs.
Yeah, I think, the other part of this that we've been focused on is just that money. If you talk about if you dive in a little bit to what Michelle was saying, the complexity of someone like us traditionally to have to partner with so many CDNs on a global basis and trying to orchestrate all these things for a day-and-day launch, quite simply being able to go to market across the world in real time and being able to present that just in time, it's life-changing as far as what we can do. And then the cost reduction of that by having so much simplified storage and reduction of versions, because even today there's still stuff that we have to present multiple versions, and there's compliance edits and things that we can take into account, but we're getting there with the technology and the backing between that it becomes a manifest update versus what has traditionally been true versioning of films and stuff like going out there. So it's really invigorating to have this opportunity to try and tie these things together and present that without having to have the orchestration between all these things and having a global launch. It's really getting to that footprint of day and day.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about use cases and how people can deploy this. So what are some of the
Come
use
see
cases?
Nate and Michelle. That's how they can deploy it.
Yeah. Yeah. But so just talk a little bit about what are some of the current and future use cases for this.
Well, between the two of us, we wouldn't be here if there weren't customers driving this. And that's all that Nate and I can say right now. All of that said, and that little bit said, not all of that said, but that little bit said, the use cases I'm sure you can see. Direct-to-consumer streaming done in a new way. And that's every format, every kind of device, from the biggest, let's say, blockbuster titles to new original content and new types of immersive formats, right? Second use case, linear channels, a new way of doing fast where you can draw on the same library and have dynamic channels that are composed and presented and played out in this new way. And a third possibility around this is reaching what I would call the emergent streaming market. There's all the globe, all the areas that haven't been well touched because it's too costly, too expensive, et cetera, to get to. And then there's also the new opportunities around deep archive and the monetization of deep archive content that, as Nate said, has value to consumers, but has been difficult to sort of bring out and present in streaming or consumable formats. And then finally, because of the way we're doing this together with the best of our two companies integrated and also allowing for the tech to take its full potential, there are new and emergent types of formats which, on the positive side of AI, can allow for royalty derivatives to come back to the owners even when generative offerings or remixes come into play.
Yeah, I think there's also, just because the traditional model is changing, there's still value that we can present in those things as they move to new models. And I think there's lots of opportunity today as the models evolve for us to plug and play. And so it's going to allow customers to experiment more. And I think that's a key opportunity for them. Like, because of the device entitlement and because we can track those things through the ledger, you're going to be able to know, hey, is this consumer traveling? Are we blocking it in a new region? Is there something? So as these things relate to security, they also present new offers. And so you can download certain versions and have the ability to kind of monetize new content as you hit regions and things like that. So you're going to have a lot of things that you can explore across the platform and enable a lot of opportunities for new type of models. And so maybe something didn't work, but they'll be able to present something as a new offering, and then you fail fast, right? And you start pick it back up, we're going to try this, because it is a saturated market. If you look at, for instance, North American fast, there's a lot. So at least even in that traditional model, we can maybe pull some of the cost to make the ROI on some of those channels that maybe 12 of 25 channels are profitable today. Well, that might be more like 20 of 25 channels if we can lower your cost of storage, your barrier to entry, enable other content models, change some of the revenue splits, have third-party content that's integrated so you can split licenses. This will allow us to enable those type of conversations, because then there's royalty splits that can be done because of the data that's being presented back and what we can take off of it. So it really presents kind of new models and methodologies as a part of the workflow and a part of the technology, and as an integration partner to it, being able to present that real time back to customers is really empowering. They can really make real time kind of decision making on if something's working or not.
Yeah, and you briefly touched on security there, and let's just talk a little bit more about that. Sort of, what are sort of specific aspects of security and rights management in this approach that's new?
Yeah. So this is fundamentally new. One basic principle in the fabric is that all the content is encrypted with owner control, owner keys, and then on playout, re-encrypted to the DRM key space. And that happens dynamically, which means you just take away this one huge challenge of security is the content itself protecting in the network, as opposed to having to build the silo around it. The big change in this model together with between Eluvio and Vubiquity is the fact that then we raise that up to the application where the rights, which are data in authorization policy in the fabric, become the means to all windowing, all entitlement, all offerings. And then most people do know the fabric is a blockchain. It's a blockchain protocol. And in that, we do, in fact, mint entitlements. And those entitlements are part of what's verified in the policy to determine if a given user's request has rights to something. And this is incredibly scalable. Some people perhaps don't know this, but we do lots of live streaming in sports. And in those cases, all of the digital passes, the season passes, the game passes, the subscriptions, those are all owned by the user that is gaining access and then verified at the time they make the streaming request. And that, coupled with the strong DRM, allows for perfect session-based security, as perfect as you can get. There's no such thing as CDN leeching in this. Mark Nakano sitting here. He leads the CDN working group on what we call CDN leeching. That doesn't exist because the session is secured for that user end-to-end with pure authorization and against that policy. And what we're exploiting together, Vubiquity and Eluvio, is the fact that now you can marry that with the studio's offering or the end customer's offering to their customer and allow that policy to be changed dynamically and to be coupled to any offering that's on the front end. So you have this completely flexible system where in real time, you say, I now want to have a new localization, new stream offering, or a new, just even a new title that happens to be available in this territory for this period of time and not available to others. All we have to do is update that, and that is true globally at the time it's changed without republishing, retranscoding, transferring any files, or anything like that, right? It's just paramount to selling media.
Yeah, what Michelle said. Look, we're proud TPN members. We take security incredibly serious, and we have always been a proponent of content security and how we lock things up together. So for us to move from models, traditional models where CDN leeching is possible, look, InfoSec is a journey. It's not a statement in time. There's a constant threat of attack. There's constant new things coming out. 0 days, unfortunately, are coming more and more regular that you're having to patch. So as we enter that, to be able to present a solution that is bundled up from the standpoint of the second that content is in the fabric, and you can look at every transaction, every access, every play, it's part of the ledger. That's incredibly powerful for your security journey and be able to know what's happening with your content and your rights at any given time on a global stage. So it's really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, it's a never-ending process, really.
It really is, yeah.
Just trying to stay ahead of that. So looking ahead, how do you see this model evolving going forward, whether it's through new ownership models, AI-driven personalization, or broader studio adoption?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity that it presents, as I alluded to earlier. There's new business models that can be brought forward, larger catalogs that can bring new kind of monetization opportunities with the content itself, tie-ins for different marketplaces, and looking at kind of AI customization and decision-making in the model, being able to present a lot of fast opportunities, regional different contextual advertising, being able to represent that and new ways to monetize that content and get the data back and being able to make, again, just-in-time playback, just-in-time decision-making. You can then go, oh, we need to make a pivot here. There's opportunities to monetize something better or make a channel better or customize a niche channel or something. There's lots of opportunity to make it more scalable and have a lot more opportunity to test more markets and regional footprints.
Just a small add-on to what Nate so eloquently said. I think you can't underestimate the innovation possibility when that one investment of a title library has, you know, in a way, infinite possibilities, and they're data-driven. Then you can start to just use that over and over again for all of these things that people want to experiment with, try, and get into market. And the reason we put this together today is because not only have we started working together, we're far down the path, and you're going to see in the next 12 months some extremely interesting things from us together that I think are game-changing to how it's been done. And we hope that the industry can see this as a new alternative to where people have been stuck.
So, yeah, before you up for taking audience questions? Sure. Take a few. Yeah, I mean, we have a few minutes.
I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to be America's next top model.
I am.
So Nate will not be taking questions, but yeah. So anyone have any questions for Michelle or possibly Nate? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'll jump in on this. I mean, I think that's
Maybe repeat the question because I'm not sure everybody heard.
I don't know if everybody heard this, but if I got this right, this would be an approach to notarize proof of usage, for example, which could also get into audience, obviously, analytics in a different way, and thinking about how to do that at scale across multiple distribution paths. And first and foremost, I applaud it because from our standpoint, Eluvio, and the way we've built and framed our technology, this proof of usage, or if you will, proof of content, right? Life cycle and provenance is just fundamental. And I think that if we can get to a point where the industry thinks in those terms and expects that the distribution plane will offer that, we will break free from where we have been stuck in many ways. Firstly, obviously, on the most important thing, that is the value of the media to the engaged audience. And then secondly, having that happen will also tear down many limitations to efficiency that have existed. Part of the reason you can't get that now from technologies other than ours is because there is this tech fronted by this tech, fronted by this tech, fronted by this huge tech called what was and is the hypervisor cloud, right? At least the media stack on top of it. And if we do start to think this way, then it calls for different ways of doing that are end-to-end.
Yeah, look, I think it's pretty amazing to think of what we're changing as a fundamental model and how we can present that data. Like the complexity of the middleware and all the hops that it's going through today is what essentially blocks that real-time reporting. And we're taking some of those things out so that you can get that real-time reporting and know where everything sits. So I think it's in some ways that hopefully makes everything easier and makes you be able to be more nimble in global launches and how quickly you can adapt to stuff.
Yes.
Immediately, yeah.
Immediately, and in fact, thank you for asking this question. The monetization features we're talking about in this combine the proof of delivery with the proof of ownership or proof of settlement in terms of the payment for the media. Those two things are inextricably tied together in the security model and the mechanism. Okay? That is what we mean by new monetization. You're absolutely right.
It is. Every customer we have is looking for that opportunity. If you didn't hear the question, asked for expansion. Mr. Frink, I haven't heard that before, but that was nice. Nate is fine. But looking for if there's diving into kind of what are the additional monetization opportunities that this enables and kind of what's the market. By being able to be so quick and by pulling cost out of the traditional marketplace and how it runs today, it will enable new types of content tiering. It'll enable new business models to support hybrid models quicker. So as we look at SVOD, AVOD, combination of those things, bringing in partnerships will be much easier because you can have royalty splits built right into the mechanism. So if you're partnering with a studio or an independent, or you have a niche type of content for a regional holiday or something that you're trying to enable, it will allow those things much simpler. And for the kind of what was, I would say, traditionally blockers in the reporting, or being able to give some of the real-time data back and understand what's happening in the marketplace, those kind of barriers will be removed so that we can present things real-time, and there's no squabbling behind the scenes or contractual things. It's going to enable a more seamless partnership between different content suppliers. I mean, we're really just trying to present content owners, content studios, the rights and the abilities to move quicker and focus on great content, and allow us to present the service and technology behind it to enable whatever your dreams may be.
And I just wanted to add, I mean, we at Eluvio technologically power today deep archives, for example, Australia Cricket, 15 seasons of content being monetized for the whole federation along with the other countries in their cricket federation, sports, live distribution that becomes VOD, where the VOD is sold after the fact, and then of course title libraries with the opportunity to reach many new markets. The important thing here in our collaboration is this scales it way up, way up. Vubiquity has both formalized relationships across all the major content suppliers, and also deep understanding of the wholesale marketing of content, as well as supply chain expertise. And combined with our technology, it makes it possible to take this to a much wider level than either of us has. And then I think to your question, I would simply add to what Nate said very well, that this technology removes the limitation of time. And this, in Fabric, the live is just as easily the rewatch, is just as easily the VOD, is just as easily the linear channel, is just as easily the short, because it's zero copy. And that's really game-changing for doing what you said, where you can start to then envision in short order, like, or even at the same time, new ways of monetizing that one production investment. Hopefully everybody. The advantages that we've described apply to all media. And then audiences, as you know, are craving everything, and they're global. So in that way, this is meant to be, full stack, every type of media company. I'll let Nate address, Vubiquity's expertise and history, but certainly from the Eluvio standpoint, everybody.
Yeah, I would concur, everyone. And, we didn't talk about it, but, some of the disputes that are evolving today about ownership and titles, and some of that goes away if it's cross-device or cross-platform, and the entitlement is held within the content itself, and you have that registry. It enables a lot of those things. So it should be really everywhere as a whole.
Yeah, and I think what Nate said is really important because it makes it really easy to do cross-party remuneration, right? Royalties or revenue sharing, and that does also unlock. I mentioned this earlier in my comments, but I think it's a really big deal with the, unfortunately, the great fear around AI generation or generative content. You can turn that on its head and make the source material driving that demand for generative derivatives to become a revenue source rather than a risk, because the derivatives can be directly in line and then the owner of the source paid back. And I know that may sound far-fetched. It's not in this model, right? I can speak on the Eluvio technology side. I think for Vubiquity and Eluvio together right now, our immediate customers are really in what I would call next gen of what has been traditional, right? The next is layering into that. I think one, being able to drive the content from new generative models and also from the, let's call it the multimodal prompt kind of interface. And I want to speak to this idea of inline generative content. For sure, and Nicole said this very eloquently, right? Effectively, all of the candidate content for the generative space is in fact what already exists or what we will make. And there is an ocean of opportunity here to set that up for the consumer in a way that allows them to play, to create, to derive from what's been built, but at the same time to remunerate the source. And I think that's really the huge opportunity that exists. And in our case, what specifically about it, some people may have seen our announcement of the EV, the Eluvio Video Intelligence Editor. That application platform has been built with these kinds of use cases in mind.
Any other questions? Anyone?
I think there's a hand. It's hard
Oh,
to see
yeah.
in the light.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sleep.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's a global world.
I think, of course, all pieces of anything new are a challenge. There isn't a single thing, right? But I can speak for us together. Vubiquity has been following Eluvio for over 3 years, and there's a reason that you see us on this stage right now. We've reached a certain level of maturity. I kind of put it out there. We just have. Our stuff works. It's big. It does what it's supposed to do. And it's been proven in a lot of cases, a lot of big cases, a lot of big brands now, to the point that the time is now on that front. The other side, I would say with that, so what was hard about that was, it's still hard, but getting to this point, and many people know me personally, and you will understand exactly what I mean, right? The second point together, I think, is now to bring this out to the industry, everybody in a way that allows for people to, understand the full potential of it. I mean, it really does break down some huge barriers, and I think the education around that is a tall order. We really appreciate the collaboration with Vubiquity and Amdocs because they have a big presence in the industry, and I think can do that very well.
Yeah, I'll comment once more a little bit on that too. I think we had our own lessons. We've had a great reputation and had a lot of opportunity managing large content libraries on behalf of studios and others. But I think we also had a maturity that around some of our own in-house IP that we've now turned into SaaS offerings that are enabling customers to see their content more readily, have the ability to look at the EDLs tied to it, look at commercial placements, look at the metadata that's associated with it across multiple languages at one time, and having that data in retrospective immediately accessible, and then what am I presenting directly to Eluvio, and the combination of those two things, it's really empowering. And of course, Vubiquity's got a great backer with Amdocs. You know, it's kind of OSS, BSS backend, and kind of SaaS offerings, and their AI solutions, and 5G means we get a lot of investment. And so I think we're both at scale. We're together now. We're both mature and have a really good offering uniquely together that we can hit the marketplace and be able to present you all with new solutions that are going to be really invigorating. And it's multiple opportunities that we're working on together at this point on a global scale, and not all of them domestic for sure. Or what we would call domestic. We shouldn't even say that anymore. It's really North America versus somewhere else, because everything is in a global viewpoint. We need to get out of, you know, if I'm sitting in the US, that doesn't mean it's a domestic. We are North America. We need to think in the global scape.
Makes sense. Oh, please.
Yeah, you use the term 2D. I haven't heard 3D in relation to media. That industry didn't have. How were you using 3D? What is 3D?
Would you like to take that?
Yes. There are new devices and elements out in the marketplace that utilize 3D technology. I would say not. I would say there's new opportunity. The question is around 3D, and historically it hasn't been around in a long time, or people haven't referenced 3D content. And where is that going? I would not say it's your standard old 3D as you traditionally. You may produce it as a traditional 3D, but with the new technology that's entered the marketplace and immersive experiences that exist, and theaters and stuff, there's new opportunities for delivering that content into devices and such. We'll see. We'll see.
Other questions? Anything either of you want to add?
Turn off the lights. Just really bright.
It's all for the cameras. Oh. Sure.
Oh, great question.
Oh my gosh. What I'm going to answer here sounds really technical or technocratic, but I'll be honest, I was extremely excited to see the metadata sophistication of the Vubiquity head end. Cable Labs through and through. I know those kinds of standards sometimes just go like this for people. When you see something put together like that and you have a tech like ours, that's a dream come true, because it means you can take that title source at scale and bring it into the technology with good repeatability, cleanliness, and speed. And that makes me incredibly excited. Number two that goes with that is what I'll call the wholesale system, whereby, you know, there is pricing data associated with that that's thought through, and territory availability information, same thing. Having that very well conformed at a large scale into a data-driven platform like ours, the Content Fabric, is just fantastic. And what I'm looking forward to is and it's more than forward, I would say, what I am enjoying, present tense, right now, is the fact that we can really harness that to do the things we've been talking about.
Most excited about, besides working with Michelle and team again, and the deeper integrations that we're already established and kind of building on, I think is also the excitement for myself as a consumer and my kids, and what they're going to be able to be presented with, and new opportunities, and hopefully pull them maybe away from their mobile back to a television screen or something, and some of the cool things that will be available around some of what we're empowering in the technology.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, Nate.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.